Okay, so this is the 7th video for the Jagdpanther tank destroyer. And we're going to install the main gun, and you want to start out by getting your gun skirt ready and taking a piece of cue card paper and gluing the gun skirt down to it so you create a square. And the reason that I didn't actually put 4 sides on the gun skirt is because it's really hard to actually get a decent square if you're doing all 4. If you're doing 3 folds, it's a lot more difficult than with just 2 to get a nice square shape out of it. So just glue it down to the cue card paper and let that dry nicely. There's also another reason that the cue card paper on the bottom is a good idea, and we'll come to that in a second here. Now once you've got that dry, you can just use scissors to cut out the cue card paper. So you're left with this. And now take your gun and your template gun example. You want to mark on the template, or on the gun rather, using the template, exactly where this expanded area ends, because where it ends is where it enters that gun skirt. So once you got that marked, take a bit of glue and just sort of, it doesn't actually take much to do this, you just want a little bit of glue around the skewer where it enters the gun skirt. I'm going to take some modeling clay and sort of wrap it around the skewer there where it enters the gun skirt. You want to carefully, starting at that mark, sort of create a semi-squared cone shape. Something that you can insert in here fairly snugly. And now once you've got it sort of set up, you want to take whatever vehicle that you're trying to do the main gun for and find out. Okay, so for example, if this gun base is very low when it was installed, then you're going to need to expand the bottom of the gun skirt, which is part of why it's cue card paper, by pushing this material in deeper. The more clay you push, modeling clay you push in, the more this will bow out, and then it will fit snugly in here, sort of regardless of the level. But if it's been installed slightly up or completely level, then it should be a pretty close fit. But you just want to make sure that when you do install it, there's not going to be any gap at the top between the gun skirt and the top of the ridging there. So this does need to expand a little bit. So I'm just going to force this modeling clay in there. And because the cue card paper is the weakest side, that's the side that expands the most. Another thing I would like to point out is that the angle your gun enters the gun skirt should be very close to the angle at the top of the gun skirt. So there may be a little, it can come up a little bit, but this should be a lot more of a harsh angle away from the gun's angle than the top. So this should be pretty close to the same as this. Doesn't have to be exactly, but it should be close. Now, you can also take some modeling clay and sort of fill these gaps in the front, but you also want to make sure you do it evenly, or else you can push the gun to one side of that square exit. A good way to do that is to kind of put modeling clay all around it and then use the edge of a scraper blade to push it in. And then you can just remove any excess with the same scraper blade, unless you pull it all out of there, which is sometimes the case. And try to make sure that you should just be able to barely see that mark you made on the skewer, showing you how long this expanded part was. Which is why you kind of want to make the mark all the way around. There we go. Okay, once you've got it set and ready to go here, I would recommend trying to get this off of there. Okay. Before installing it, just kind of take some 4-to-1 glue. This one's pretty much dry. Oh no, 2-to-1 glue. Really nice and wet glue. And just kind of, you want to harden up all this modeling clay. You can use nail polish for this. It dries a lot faster as well, which is kind of nice. But you want to make sure that the skewer is not going to slosh around and change its angles or elevation, at least not easily. So if you harden this whole thing around it, and both its entrance and exit point, that will go a long way towards doing that. And just put a little counterweight toward the end of the gun. Oops. And let it dry like that. So when it is dry, I believe, yeah, there's the bottom. This was made for this one. Yep, looks like it. It's all dry and you got a nice tight fit. Becomes semi-obvious what the next step is. We'll just put some thick, either straight or 4-to-1 glue all around. Very deepest part of the gun base. And make sure that the cue card part is down. And then when you install it, I recommend the easiest way to get it in there, especially if it's a really tight fit, is to insert it like this and then lower it until you get the elevation you're looking for. And then check it out from the front and make sure that it's coming out straight, or it's not, because they did have a little bit of option as to move side to side, but not very much. And the depression angle was fairly limited as well, but you can have it quite elevated. So just fiddle with it a little bit until you're happy with its placement. And let it dry. And then when it does dry, I would recommend just taking 4 or 2-to-1 glue and just making sure everything is nice and stabilized, and fill up any gaps that may be visible inside of there. And harden also where the gun exits. So just harden up the whole thing and it will make it more durable for the rest of the modeling process, because you don't want to mess up your gun while you're doing your suspensions or something like that. So you might even want to do this a couple of times to harden everything into place, and then proceed to the next video. Thanks for watching. See you soon.